Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Folks, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Ex Machina. Join me in the studio tonight is my brother from another mother, Robbie Rip Rains. And joining us is our special guest tonight, Fred Roehl. He's coming to us from all the way from the backwoods of Alaska. So if his audio gets a little glitchy, or if he frizzles out a little bit, kind of give him a little bit of slack there, folks, because his internet's coming in by dog sled, and sometimes he gets a little staticky. So, but we're thrilled to have Fred. He's from the channel called the Subarctic Sasquatch. Just an absolutely brilliant channel with some of the most terrifying encounters I've ever heard, because it seems like no matter what we have down here in the lower 48, it's bigger, meaner, and uglier in Alaska. Look at the brown bears that we have down here in the lower 48. They would get their asses kicked by the coastal brown bears in Alaska. Look at the moose up in Maine. Those things are like pygmy moose compared to the ones in Alaska. So everything's bigger up there. It's not just Texas, it's Alaska. So join me in welcoming Fred to the channel. Fred is an awesome dude. Been on the show a few times before. Been a longtime friend of ours, and we're damn glad to have him back. Fred, thank you for joining us, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, DA. Thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it. It's always good to come and join the team and have a good conversation with you guys. That's for sure.
We're always happy to have you, dude.
Yep.
You have some of the coolest encounters I've ever heard.
Some of the scariest.
Yeah, that's thanks to the people who are willing to share. That's for the outsider looking in. It's not easy for a lot of people to come forward and share some of these experiences. Especially with like the native people. There's so much superstition ingrained with it. So it's. I'm just thankful that they do come forward, because for me, it's public safety. It's not about old superstitions and stuff. You know what I mean? It's I'm sure it started from somewhere, and I respect that. We're getting to a point to where we need to overcome certain things and get the word out on what's going on out there.
That's one of the things I think is really awesome about your channel is you're not just documenting things that are happening. You're documenting elder knowledge that will probably go away in less than a generation if it's not documented. Whereas down here in the lower 48, people are like, I believe in Bigfoot, or I've had this encounter, or this kind of thing. In Alaska, it's just accepted as fact, and that's the way it really should be down here. But just such a treasure trove of interesting stories.
Yeah, I agree, and that's another reason why I started the channel. We're losing our elders at a rapid rate, and the younger generation aren't really picking up the reins to take the lead. So documenting and getting this, I view it as a modern oral history, a modern version of it, to where it's on digital media and it can't just fade away. When we lose our elders, which is outside of the public safety aspect, the driving force, because that's why I have that interactive map. That was one of my first priorities when I started the channel, was getting that interactive map up, just so people, if they're going to an area, they can click on the little icons and it'll bring up the encounter video, and they can, see for themselves what someone had dealt with. And maybe when they go into that area, they remember that and, be aware. Just no different than being a bear aware of, bears in the area if there was a problem or whatever.
Yeah, what I tell people all the time, if you're going out in the woods here, there are things that aren't cryptid at all that can still hurt you or kill you.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
For those that are new to the channel that weren't here the last time you were on, would you mind giving us a little bit about your background? Where you are and what inspired you to really start doing this?
Right. Well, my name is Fred Roehl. I'm a Chugyoung Tribal Council member from Bristol Bay, Alaska, Dillingham to be exact. It's been in our culture that we don't pursue these things. There's typically we don't talk about them because of the bad omen. You can either bring them in or cause, basically something bad to happen to friends or family or whatever. But the main reason I started doing what I'm doing now is up here in Alaska, a lot of people were hearing the encounters from down there because up here, a lot of people don't talk openly about it. And so to me, what I was seeing would give someone up here the wrong idea of exactly what's going on out there. Whereas we don't have friendly forest friends up here. It's just not what it is. And so I just took it upon myself to start getting the encounters that I know of have happened. And then, as I progressed, other people were sharing, and, we're a little over 200 shared so far. But again, the main thing was just getting the word out for public safety, because there's just so many people that just don't understand the trauma involved. There's never been anyone that said, I felt really good about what happened. You know what I mean? Not a single one. And, it may be different down in the lower 48, but up here, even when they're unseen, people fear for their lives. And that's not a friend, in my opinion. My friends don't make me fear for my life.
One thing I was saying earlier about things being more aggressive up that way, it seems like the colder the climate, the more creatures rely on the caloric intake, and that can make them pretty aggressive, especially when you're competing for food resources with other large predators like coastal browns or the Kodiak bears. So I can understand why they would be a little more aggressive about their food intake, especially in the colder months. And we would be a pretty easy food source. And that's something you might not necessarily run into down here in the 48 with our much longer growing cycle and more plentiful, like roots and berries and fruit. But if, all of that was scarce, it'd be a pretty dangerous thing just to go walking out your back door.
Yeah, and you nailed it. The environmental extremes are off the chain, man. Like right now, it's almost 40 degrees out, but tomorrow morning I could wake up and it'll be negative 30. I mean, just like that. And with such a short season to gather resources in the spring and summer when the salmon are running and things of that nature, I think that adds to it. There's limited time, and when someone like us is out in the woods and all of a sudden we get between them and their potential meals, I know I would get grumpy too, but there's also the oral history that can't be dismissed, where it dictates that they will steal you and eat you, As I know other tribes have origin stories for these beings up here in Alaska, but as far as my tribe, they've always been here, and it's always been adversarial. It's never been one that we were friends and did any trading or anything like that. It's always been, they will eat you, they will steal you, and it's just, I mean, that's what I was raised with. You know what I mean? So it's hard for me to wrap my mind around good ones or friendly ones, because me personally, I wouldn't trust them even if they were friendly towards me, just because of what I've been through. I just, and for people who are gifting, I would be very careful with that. You never know what kind of bad habit you're creating.
A great example of that is that guy they called the grizzly bear, the grizzly man, the guy that went up into Alaska and was convinced that he was friends with these bears, and he gone out among them, and then he took his girlfriend up there and they ate him. You could have a peaceful encounter a dozen times, but it doesn't take but once, and you're bear chow.
Yeah, you're a steaming coil on the trail. That guy's a blithering idiot, man.
Was
idiot. Oh God, I thought it was a comedy when I watched it. Because that movie came out years after that actually happened, and we heard about it, in real time up here, and everyone I know was just like, "Yeah, dumbass, that's what happens." You know,
Right.
you don't go and mess with something, especially coastal brown bears near Katmai. Dude, those things are huge monsters. You know, even
1,000
his
pounds or
video
more.
footage does it. Yeah, even his video footage of them fighting does it no justice. I've seen fights like that 25 feet away. You don't want to be in that presence. You know,
Well,
it's
when people take
it's
their
it's it's something else.
own lives in their own hands like that and do stupid stuff like that, it always blows my mind that people blame the animal. I'm like,
Right.
what? The animal
Yeah,
was doing what the animal was, you know.
Yeah. That's
That,
his
that
behavior.
that wasn't the bear's fault. Bear didn't go into
right,
his house,
and
and
that's it.
he went into the bear's house. It
Like
just
like free swimming in the ocean and then getting pissed off because you got bit by a shark. You swam into his living room. He didn't come to yours.
yeah.
Right. And in all honesty, I was rooting for the Bears from the start, you know, thin out the gene pool with idiots like that. There's so many people out there that I think it's a form of narcissism where they really think that they're so smart. The animal's going to understand that they're just their friend and they would never hurt me. And well, that's what you get, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
not trying to
That's
sound callous. I'm sure his family was heartbroken, but it's no loss to me. It's good riddance.
it's kind of like those videos you see of people in Yellowstone trying to pet buffalo. Like this isn't going to end well for you.
Yeah. Yeah. They're so far removed from reality. They don't realize they've just stepped into the most dangerous place they could be, you know?
Yeah. And that's no wonder so many people go missing in the woods. Granted, like the missing 411 cases, and even in the Alaskan Triangle, a lot of those are probably explained by bears or other large predators. But the really bizarre ones are the ones where there's no trace left behind.
Oh,
Yeah. And there's so many of those accounts, man. Just so many. You know, someone just walking from their house, you know, 1,000 feet away to a neighbor's house, and poof, they're gone. There's no sign, no tracks, no nothing. They're just gone. You know, it's that's another reason for the channel as well, is that public safety factor. You know, you don't. I'm not saying that there's a hairy man behind every tree and every missing person up here has to do with the hairy man. I'm saying I strongly believe that some are, and if you can avoid them, avoid 'em. And you got it, man. So many people really want an encounter, and I'm telling you, you really don't. There's nothing. A lot of people romanticize thought and don't realize that it's going to be the most terrifying thing you've dealt with. You know.
It's like playing the slot machine. I mean, 9 times out of 10, you're gonna lose your money when you pull that handle. But that 10th time, bang!
Yep. Yep.
And
That
it's
is
not a
for
good slot
sure.
machine when something like that gets a hold of you. I mean, down here in the lower 48, granted, we don't have some of the dangerous stuff you guys have got up there, but you can go missing in the woods down here too if you run into the wrong animal. We've got mountain lions and bears. I mean, granted, most of what we have is black bears. There hasn't been a confirmed grizzly bear sighting in Missouri in probably 125 years, but they are seeing them in Iowa now, and to the west of us, they're starting to come back to this territory. Without any large predators around to keep them out, eventually we're going to see them down here again.
well, you just think about reintroducing the elk to that they're going to follow the prey, and elk are a prey item of grizzlies.
Missouri reintroduced elk 20 years ago, and the population just exploded.
It's all over, all the way down to North Carolina, South Carolina, where I live now. So,
yeah, they got no natural
predators. Right. And there's nothing wrong with trying to correct a wrong, but to make it right, because that natural selection thing, I'm not saying it's right that a lot of species got hunted out of areas. What I'm saying is they've been out of that area. It's no longer necessarily a habitat for them, but then they come back in. look at the wolves. Obviously they're doing well. However, who's to say what's gonna come of that in the future? This is where the wolves, they're not hunt them. And so what ends up happening is you get an overpopulation of wolves. They get forced out as they get older, and different packs arrive in different places. Then what's going to happen? It's
as the resources get lean, they turn to easy prey.
Yeah, and I understand the concept of it. I mean, it's a great idea on paper. It's just some of the places they want to do it. Like they're talking about reintroducing brown bears over there. Oh, gosh, I forget where it was. But it was somewhere down in the States on the West Coast. They were talking about reintroducing the brown bears. And I just shook my head like there hasn't been brown bears here like that in a very long time. And then what? What happens when they're eating kids at a playground? You know what I mean? It's a bad idea.
Well, if you're walking on a trail and an 800 to 1,000 pound bear decides it wants you, it's probably going to get you. You're not going to outrun it. You can't climb a tree and get away from it. And unless you can get to a vehicle and get out of there, it's going to chase you down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Has anyone ever seen a brown bear charge? I have. And
over
it
short
happens.
Distances, they can run faster than a horse.
Yeah. And I've witnessed it on more than one occasion, and it's not a fun position to be in. I was standing with the load anticipating this action, and it was still almost more than you can deal with, even when you're ready. Not to mention those who just kind of all of a sudden stumble upon it, and it's there in your face, and you're not prepared. You know what I mean? Right. It's chilling when you are prepared. So. It's just
the reality is a big predator like that, and I'm including Bigfoot in this, a big predator like that, if you're out in the woods, unless you're heavily armed, it's probably going to get you, and it might even get you then.
Yep.
There are armed hunters that go disappear.
Several. There was one last year. They looked all over for that guy. He walked less than a half mile to pick up a pack he had left behind and gone. No trace of him. There was a rumor that the state troopers weren't allowing the dogs to search, and that wasn't true. They brought cadaver dogs and tracking dogs out there. The dogs wouldn't do nothing. The dogs just sat there in their kennels. They would not. Yeah, they would not do their job.
That's what a lot of people don't realize. They think if a bear kills somebody, that the person's just gone. But bears are fairly lazy. If they kill somebody, they're probably just going to drag them a short distance and bury them with leaves. Bears don't carry kills off.
No, they don't. There would be a sign, tattered clothes. There would be a scene of a struggle. I've seen bear attack scenes, and it's nothing pretty. There's obviously a trace in a direction when they go missing when it's a bear, because like you said, they're lazy. They'll drag you maybe 40 yards, maybe over by some brush. But by then they're taking a dump on your dead body to cover the smell and try to keep others away. That just, but in the real bizarre cases, they're just gone. I mean, gone. Not a trace of the person ever found. I mean, look at that guy running the. No, it's not. That guy running the mountain marathon down there. I think it was Seward. Just disappeared. People had just seen him, and all of a sudden he is gone, never to be seen again. And it's a well-marked trail. There was hundreds of people around, gone, just gone. Yep. No trace of that guy.
That's the really terrifying part, is because if one of these things wants you and you're on the menu, there's not a lot you're going to do to stop it. Even if you for example, like they say the three of us were walking a trail in some of the back country and we're all heavily armed. If we're not paying attention, the guy at the back might just go and never be seen again without firing a shot.
Yep. And, and coincidentally, that's how some of these missing person cases up here happen. And sometimes it's the person first on the trail just went around a small bend, just right out of view. Yep, gone. gone. Those are the creepy ones, because I mean, what do you do with that? You know, yeah, you report it, you send out search teams, but at the end of the day, they're not coming back. You know,
Right. Especially when
I,
dogs, trained dogs won't follow them.
yeah, yeah. And to me, if a trained cadaver dog or a tracking dog won't do its job, in my opinion, there's only one reason it wouldn't, and that's, a hairy man or a Bigfoot. Just because that dogs, they usually cower and are the first thing going the opposite direction. You know what I mean? I just, my buddy brings his dogs every once in a while when we go out on excursions, and that's fine. That's up to him and whatnot, because they're his dogs, and he knows their signals and all that stuff. For me personally, though, years ago, I took one of my favorite sled dogs I was growing up with, out just hiking around, and that little bastard brought a big old brown bear charging back at me. Oh man. Yeah, that was a hairy situation. I ducked around a tree. The dog ended up getting killed, and I had to put rounds on the bear as it was chewing up my dog. So that's why I won't bring a dog, not my own anyway, because they will literally bring trouble right back to you. Even a moose, they'll go piss off a moose, and all of a sudden you see your dog come scrambling through the brush, and now you got a 1,600-pound bull moose pissed off at you, and you ain't winning that fight. You're just not. It's
DA,
yeah,
I'll be
it's
right
not.
back.
So that's something that I find fascinating about Alaska, is it's something that most people that live down here in the lower 48 just don't understand. Is, down here, if the weather's bad and you're out of milk, you wait until the weather clears up and you go to the store. But out there, a lot of people are subsistence hunters. They stock their freezer and live and die by the movement of the herds and the salmon run. And if they miss it, they're done.
Yeah, yeah. There's so many. There's a lot of people who may not have had encounters and who may not have been in situations like that, to where it's easy to get caught up in what they've dealt with in their own life experience, and it's hard for them to accept what happened to someone else. So sometimes there's a disconnect, and I don't think it's intentional. I just think it's some people will only have their own life experience to view from and to draw from, and so it's hard for them to really understand how dangerous it can be, because they'll think to themselves, maybe they had an incident with a mountain lion and they handled themselves just fine, and the mountain lion ran away, that kind of thing. But look at Timothy Treadwell, that rotten guy, Jesus, he broke every cardinal rule there is to messing around out in the wild. And I don't want to detour anyone from going out into the wild. I love being out there myself. I just recommend they go prepared, and don't go ignorant, thinking that you're too smart to get mauled by a bear, or you're too smart to get stomped out by a moose, or you're too smart to ever have a problem out in the woods. Because once you start thinking like that, can't no one help you.
And people need to realize that you don't have to be 20 miles into the backcountry for this to happen. There are people that disappear 100 yards off a parking lot.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people disappear in their front yards. There's a little girl went missing over in Palmer years back. It was everyone who had saw the girl saw her with the little person, and all of a sudden she was gone. Not a trace, just gone. And that was in her own backyard, grant you it's not hairy man related, but it's the same thing. You can't just be ignorant to the potentials around you, which again, that's easier said than done, because so many people, they're stuck in their own personal bubble. They get up, they go out to their garage or right out front, get in their car, they drive to their cubicle, they drive home, it's a monotonous thing. So when they get out into the wilds, they're so far removed from nature, they really don't know what they're doing, you know. And reading a book on survival and watching a video on survival is something totally different than you having to take those things and put them into practice, you know, out in the field. It's just drastically different.
And not having that situational awareness is it's a big deal.
Yep.
If you get out there and you're just
Yep.
like you said, Fred,
Yeah.
it's not going to end well for you.
Right. You don't want to be out there staring at your feet, you know, you just don't. But again, you know, it's that complacency, you know, people, I don't think they're dumb people. I just think they don't quite understand the true dangers and the elements in which they're going out into, even down in the States. You know, you guys got plenty of missing people down there as well, and plenty of crazy crap happening out in the woods. And I would be more concerned in the woods down there for coming across an illegal grow operation or an illegal meth operation out in the woods.
Exactly.
Or something
That's
that
a real
some
danger
whacked
around
out.
here.
Yeah. Or something a cartel is running, you know, because that's the reality of the world we live in today. You know, I just, yeah, y'all can keep that.
We've got some creepy areas here in Missouri, and one of the places I've talked about, and not only in my books, but Robbie and I have been down there and talked about, is the old abandoned Joe Bald campground, completely overgrown. My son Noah and I went down there yesterday to film a couple of shorts for the channel. And we got down there with plenty of daylight. You know, we were both armed, and when we got there, there's a public access fishing ramp where people will launch boats and fish. And there was maybe a dozen people down there, which was a lot. I mean, we never see that many people in that old campground. Well, Noah and I went down by where we found those tracks, Robbie. We were down in that same spot looking for tracks and setting up to film. And we noticed the sun was getting lower in the sky, and I looked up and everybody was gone. And it was almost sundown, and we're like, let's wrap this up and get the hell out of here, because it was dead quiet.
Oh, would you look at the time?
The lower the sun got in the sky, the more nervous Noah and I got, because like I said, just 15, 20 minutes before, there were a dozen people down by the water's edge, and it's like they just disappeared like smoke on the breeze when it started getting dark.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when
Smart
the locals
people
vanish like that, you pay attention.
Yeah, I agree. If the locals are heading out, you should probably do the same, you know. But yeah, the dynamics are so different. So I think some of those people who watch my channel, you know, they have what they're used to where they're living as their, you know, their own only point of reference, that sometimes they're almost offended to hear the level of aggression and, you know, someone opening fire on one of these creatures, you know, out in the wild. And, you know, for those people, I would just tell them, you know, hey, you weren't there. And, you know, I try not to judge anyone who is in that position to where they're opening fire on something like that out in the field, because there's something to be said about the energy in the air when you're in one of these encounters. And you can feel it. It's palpable. It's a tension. It's a nervousness. It's a fear. It's almost like it's being projected onto you. And for those who haven't felt it, you know, try not to pass judgment on those who have, because it's definitely real, and people react in different ways. I know of people who have dropped the gun. Me personally, I used the gun. And others who just forgot they even had a gun in those experiences. But the point being is, if you haven't been in their shoes, try not to be harsh on the judgments of someone else who happened to have opened fire, or, you know, whatever it may be. Because I get a lot of comments about certain things when it comes to people shooting, and, oh, they weren't going to hurt you, they're your friend, and this and that. And it's like, yeah, you know, my friends don't put me in positions to where I'm drawing down on them, you know?
Right. Now, your encounter, you know, the one you had at that cabin, is probably one of the most terrifying encounters I've ever heard. I mean, you know, firsthand. I've heard lots of scary encounters where, like where people would talk about someone was killed or somebody went missing, but to actually speak to somebody that had this encounter, your encounter just, is absolutely nerve wracking. I mean, I can't imagine how I would have reacted stuck in that cabin. And it's a totally different feeling, like you were saying, when you're just happen to see an animal in the distance, and another when you realize you're being hunted.
Yeah, I've been sharing that encounter lately, and I haven't been sleeping too good. It just it ebbs and flows though. Sometimes it won't bother me as much, and then other times, like, I mean, over the course of this last week, I've been sleeping like shit. Just because we've been having high winds, and every once in a while the house will creak, and that creaking sound is a trigger. It it still bothers me. That's for sure.
Yeah,
It still bothers me.
and that's the thing that always makes the account all the more visceral to me, is the fact that you've probably told that story 100 times over the years, but every time you tell it, I can see that you're reliving it, and that's the big difference between somebody that's just, I saw one time and it walked by and I didn't even think to get a picture. That's a whole different element than when, like, these things were beating on the wall of the cabin trying to get us, and if we hadn't have been armed, they would have.
Right. And I think I was interviewing with you. My dogs were in the room, and they sensed
Yep.
what I was dealing with, and they started going squirrely and barking, just because they sensed my my angst and my anxiety. But yeah, it's nothing nice, man. And that's one of the serious driving forces to get people to understand they may be forest friends somewhere, but not up here. And they sure the hell ain't my friends. I am.
And the fact that you left behind a brand new shotgun should let everybody
Yeah.
know that's not something you just casually leave behind.
Yeah.
No. But you know what? That experience has taught me that nothing is worth your life. You know what I'm saying? I would rather
buy
lose
another
100
shotgun.
shotguns. Yeah, I'm fine losing the shotgun. But damn it, it was brand new. It was stainless, man. That was a nice shotgun.
Mariners. That's one of those Mariners, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a rifled barrel. It was set up with the ghost ring sight. It was going to be my brush gun still, but it is what it is. That brushed stainless was so pretty.
Have you ever thought about going back to see if it's still there?
No. I want to go back when I filmed the documentary, but I haven't been back. Hell no. It was even the thought of going back right now, I instantly felt the blood pressure in my eyes change. Boom, 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 boom. That's going to be a hard trip.
Or like a cherry film.
Yeah,
it didn't get thrown at you.
Yeah, and it's so funny, Fred. Me and my wife were talking about the body alarm response today and how you can remember certain snapshots. And I remember on one of the first episodes you're talking about, you saw that basketball-sized boulder coming at you.
Yeah, when it whizzed right by my face.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like I told her, I said, I remember the slow motion. I remember hearing the pops and the cracks, and I remember seeing dirt just erupt. And I was like, oh, somebody must be shooting at me. You know what I mean? And she had an incident where she got hit with a truck, and she was in her mom's car, and she remembers looking and going, that grill sure is close, and you're like, hey,
right.
That rock sure is close. It's weird how that stuff snapshots in your mind.
Right, because as soon as I saw it in front of my eyes, everything went instantly slow motion, and it was like I followed it, and it seemed like it was just moving so slow.
Yeah.
And then it impacted the water so hard. I mean, it hit in like 3 feet of fast moving water and impacted the bottom before water could close over the top of it. It hit hard. So,
dude, that's a hell of an impact, man. And people don't understand that time compression when things just go.
You feel like you're having an inner monologue with yourself that lasts 2 or 3 minutes when it's instantaneous. Because when
right,
I thought about when I was going take my buddy to get his patrol car picked up, and I was sitting in the turning lane, and that guy turned right on into me, and just, head on collision with me. And I remember sitting there thinking, is this guy messing with me? Is this somebody I know that's playing with? And I'm sitting there having this conversation in my head the whole time when this guy's driving straight for the front of my patrol car and almost drives up over the top of my hood. But I remember having that conversation in my head thinking, is this somebody I know that's messing with me and just acting like he's going to drive in my lane? And then I was bam, and it's just exactly like Doc and Fred was just saying.
That's the weirdest thing. It was like I was sitting there going, somebody's shooting at me, and I was like, and then the rest of my body's like, hey, dumbass, you might want to like make a minimal target,
Right. And another thing for me was that tunnel vision right after that. Everything started closing in. Yep. It was hyper focused, man. Hyper focused, that's for sure.
That's exactly it.
Yep.
Did you guys
leaving the extremities and going to the important parts?
Did you guys have the same issue I did? Like, I had a couple of critical incidents when I was an officer, and after things calmed down for 15 minutes, my hands shook like freaking leaves in the wind.
Dude, I was shaking like a dog crapping peach pits, man. I mean, it was horrible.
Yeah.
Mine is
for me. It was a little different for me. I was shaking like a leaf up until I resigned myself to death. I resigned myself that I'm dead. And that's the only way I could stop shaking. Like, it was hard. It was really hard. But my hands, they still ache every once in a while when I think about I was gripping that shotgun so hard for so long, I'd have to let go of it to feel my hands, man. It was, that shit was rough, man.
What's some of the most bizarre encounters that you've heard recently?
I was traveling a couple weeks ago, and I got to the airport early because I freaking hate TSA. I would rather take my time getting through their nonsense and not feel like I'm going to be late for a flight. But anyway, I was there plenty early, and there was this small little lounge that's open air right there in C Concourse at Ted Stevens. And I sat down for a Jack and Coke, and there was a couple native guys. They came up a few minutes later, and they were waiting for a flight to their village or whatever. And they sat down and were having a drink and just chatting. And I said hi, introduced myself, let them know where I was from. And I just asked them, I was like, hey, do you guys have more hairy man stories or little people stories where you're from? They both instantly, hairy man. I was like, oh, you mind sharing a little something? And they were quiet for a minute. They asked who I was again, and I told them. I showed them my tribal ID, and then immediately the one guy sitting closest to me was like, 10 years ago, my grandpa found a baby one of those hairy man floating in a basket in the lagoon. And at first he thought it was a human child until they looked at it closer and saw it wasn't a human child. And no one was around, so his grandpa took this dead infant and gave it a Christian burial. Within 3 days, 3 villages away, the shaman was approached by these beings looking for that child. Told him to give the child back or it's going to be war. And according to what was said, there was at least 15 to 20 of these creatures in the tree lines around this village waiting for an answer, right? So they jumped on the VHF and they radioed around. They sent them in the proper direction the shaman came with. They took these beings to the grave, and because the elder showed so much respect to the body and buried it in such a respectful way, they opted not to go to war, but warned them, never touch one of ours again. You see a basket floating, you leave it alone. And that was the last contact they had with that clan of hairy men. But there are villages where the shaman are said to have regular conversations with these beings. I've personally been trying my best to make inroads to have conversations with these people. But again, man, it is there's so much superstition and so much old stuff that's still held onto so tightly. It's really hard to make inroads to, like, I want to have a conversation with that shaman. I want to know what was said about going to war. You know what I mean? And what does that really mean? Go to war? Like, what would that look like? Because one of these things, I mean, a small 200-man village. Come on, that's definitely serious business. That would be a very, very serious thing to have to deal with.
Right. And, two or three of those things would probably make short work of a small village.
Right. And it was said this happened less than 10 years ago.
You said the shaman was speaking to them. How were they able to communicate?
Yep.
How were they able to speak?
Siberian Yupik, the oldest dialect of Yupik, Siberian Yupik. Natives on like St. Lawrence Island and some of those upper northmost coastal communities still speak Siberian Yupik, but it was the same dialect, a little bit different because of the modern versus the ancient, and they spoke the ancient versus the modern, but it was enough to be able to communicate. And yeah, oh, can you imagine negotiating with these beings, like 20 of them right over there, and they say, "Where's my baby?" Ah, dude, I would not. Man, that would be something to deal with. That's for sure, man.
That's pretty terrifying. I mean, and it doesn't surprise me that they would speak a very primitive dialect of a very early language, because I've often believed these things might be remnant populations of Neanderthal or Denisovian, and that's the language they would speak. I mean, they wouldn't speak modern English. They wouldn't speak, any of the more recent languages. They would speak some of these very old tribal dialects.
Right. And that's not far-fetched as far as Neanderthal, because a lot, even what I saw, looked more Neanderthal than ape. It had a human-type nose. It was flat to the face and broad at the base. A lot of people who share their encounters give the exact same description. They said it looked like a caveman. It looked like a Neanderthal. It looked like a human versus any ape. There was no upturned nostrils or anything like that. But yeah, I definitely think it's something along those lines for sure.
And that's kind of the direction I felt for a while. I mean, we get varying descriptions from people. I mean, you get people that talk about like the Patterson Gimlin versus the skunk ape, how they have differences. But I kind of attribute that to like regional variances, like you would see between East and West Coast black bears or coastal brown bears and interior brown bears. There are differences, but it's still the same species.
And Fred, wouldn't there? I mean,
yeah.
Robbie and
there's gosh,
wouldn't the language be the same as what region they're in? That Siberian language?
Probably so. I mean,
I would think so. I would think so. I mean,
I took an account from a guy who lives down near Nowata, Oklahoma, and he's a Native American, and his family's Cherokee, and his grandfather told him stories when he was little of them coming to their farm at night, and that they spoke a very primitive version of Cherokee.
There you go. So that's a very primitive Siberian from what Fred was saying.
He said sometimes it wasn't hard. It wasn't easy to understand, but they could get their point across.
Yeah.
Right. And that's exactly how it was relayed to me as well. There was just enough crossover between certain words in the dialect that they were able to pick up on it and, get things figured out. But gosh, to be that negotiator, that would be a very, very tough situation to be in. That's for sure.
Yeah, because you've got to have the knowledge that should negotiations go badly, it's going to reach across and twist your head around backwards.
Yeah, immediately. It would
be that quick. I mean, no wonder people go missing on a trail and people don't hear a sound. I grab you by the top of the head, give it a twist, and you're dead.
Yeah. I mean, that quick. That's why, you know, going out into the field, I would much rather sleep out under the stars like a cowboy versus being a to-go bag or a nylon, you know, tent. It's just
Burrito.
So bad. I like that.
yeah, because it's just.
I once heard somebody say that people in sleeping bags are the soft tacos of the bear world, and I've always remembered that.
Right.
Your cryptid takeaway at that point.
Right.
Might
Bigfoot's
as well
like,
just cover yourself with sour cream before you crawl in.
Yeah, you know, there's been a lot of people coming forward that had these things looking in their kids' windows back in the 70s and 80s, you know, and they think about for these poor dads that sat with this knowledge for 20, 30 years of some crazy looking being staring in their kids' windows and not being able to share it because of the ridicule, you know, or their job, the position they had could be potentially taken from them over something they didn't ask for. You know, that's a very unfair thing that ends up happening because of all the mockery. You know, it's eesh.
There was a guy we had on the show just last week, Brian, and Brian was he lives up in Michigan, and he'd been gifting peanut butter to him for years. Well, he got sick, and for about 3 weeks he wasn't putting it out, and apparently these things got aggressive. They were throwing empty peanut butter jars into people's yards, and in one case one was even looking in a second-story window at a small child.
Yeah, that's that gifting, man. I'm telling you, only gifts I have are heavy caliber, high velocity, man. That's all I got. All I got to share with them, because it just I don't see any good coming of it. You know, there was a guy up in Talkeetna feeding these things peanut butter as well. He stopped feeding them peanut butter, and you know he had to do repairs to his roof. You know, it's. I don't know. I think for this region up here, there's far more heavier stakes involved than maybe down there because of, you know, there's been such a longer time period of people being around for these types of interactions to where they've probably calmed way down compared to up here. Because up here, it's still the last frontier. It's still very much so the most extreme environment. You know, just on all sides.
Yeah, Fred. My wife and I stayed in a cabin up in Talkeetna on the confluence of the Three Sisters, right there. The three rivers there, and we were in our little tiny cabin out in the middle of the woods, and I slept with a 44 Magnum and a 10 millimeter, like right there.
Yeah, and especially in that area. How long ago was that?
That was 4 years ago.
Yeah, I don't blame you. That, you know, that area up into the Talkeetna Mountains, I'm basically all over. I mean, I literally get reports from everywhere there's people.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I mean, it just makes you wonder. Well, for me, what I wonder most about is what sparks that difference between I'm going to scare you away versus I'm going to eat you. Like there's what's that trigger? What's that threshold that gets crossed that makes it go to that next level? You know, that's the most curious thing for me, because honestly, most of the encounters I share literally have to do with a strange curiosity and them, you know, getting out of the area. You know, for the most part, you know, there's some creep factor involved, but let's be honest, if you hear something screaming, it's going to scare the shit out of you. You don't know what it means by the scream. It could be telling you, hey, look out behind you, there's a brown bear that's pissed off, but we don't know. You know, so it can easily be taken as aggression, even if it's just trying to force you out. You know what I mean? So it's just curious what sparks it from that to, you know, I'm going to eat you. You know, that's the thing that drives me.
Do you think that's what happened at Port Chatham?
Yeah, I think now talking to some of the natives that were originally from their family lineage, from my understanding, there was people there prospecting, right? They were looking for gold up in their hills. Well, from what my understanding was, is they came across some grave sites unintentionally while digging for pay dirt and disrespected a certain burial site, and that sparked the headless dude in the lagoon and various other killings by these beings. From what I was told, the only people that were killed were the miners. Were the miners up in the hills. One of them got crushed by his own equipment. The other one went headless, and the other one was found just beat to soup in his own skin. Gosh, that'd be such a horrible way to go. Be beat to mush inside your own skin, man. God.
Basically, pulp your bones.
But yeah, you're just soup on the inside. But which hearing that from the some of these elders made a lot more sense to me than just something out of the blue. They start attacking a whole village and run people off. It does make a lot more sense that one of these prospectors or a group of these prospectors went to the wrong place and were digging in the wrong area looking for pay dirt and unintentionally, acquired the wrath of these beings. And they didn't stop their harassment until everyone was gone. From what was told to me, they killed the guilty and harassed the non-guilty until they were all gone. So,
the rest of you may not have done it, but get out.
Yeah. Welcome's been burned. You're welcome. You're no longer welcome. You've outstayed your welcome. Yeah, or we'll chuck it out in the lagoon.
They things like that. I mean, when you don't realize what kind of toes you're stepping on when you're doing stuff like that, it can have some pretty serious repercussions. That's why I don't believe in gifting. I mean, let's say you've been going to the same spot in the woods where there's a tree stump, and you've been putting peanut butter out for years, and they get used to the fact that when people come out there, they put peanut butter out for them. But some guy goes walking by, doesn't drop peanut butter off. He's going to be suddenly the target of a very pissed off creature that was looking for his freaking extra creamy.
Yeah. I even if I knew they were in the area, I still wouldn't use peanut butter as a lure to potentially, or any food item potentially as a lure to try to get them on camera. You know what I mean? Just because I'm not going to stay there forever, I'm going to leave. What about the next person that comes along?
Right.
What are they going to have to deal with because of my actions?
Well, I learned fairly young what happens when people feed animals, and you see it around here all the time. That Missouri Department of Conservation gets after people like, don't feed the black bears. And there's been several people around here in the Mark Twain that had basically conditioned these black bears to come right up on their deck, and they'd put food out. And one night this lady wasn't at home, and a group of black bears ripped her kitchen door down and destroyed her house.
Right. And there's a lot of accounts of these things being vindictive in nature. And nothing done on the person's part to really be mean or hurt these creatures, just their mere presence, they end up being followed home, and then they're harassed at home. You know what I mean? So there's something going on there. There's a dynamic with some of them that are just vindictive, and they seem to really enjoy causing fear in people, and that's just not friendly. You know what I mean? That's just not something that is friendly.
Well, that's why any of the places we go to, where we go to try to film or anything like that, it's at the very least an hour away from the house. I mean, I don't want anything following me home. Robbie, what were you going to say? Sorry, buddy.
I was just going to say it's no different than a lot of these third world countries where they fish on these rivers for a living, and they clean their fish right there in the river, and they get snatched by crocodiles all the time. I mean, animals associate people with food, and that
Yeah.
usually ends up bad for the animal and for people.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we've talked about this before too, Fred. And I know DA and Robbie will back me up on this. Is like you've got different personalities. You've got some
Yeah.
that are like, hey man, we just want to freaking coexist and do our own thing. You do your thing, and we'll be happy. And others that are just gonna freaking, torment just to torment.
And if they're very similar to primitive humans, you're going to run the gamut. You're going to have Bigfoot hippies and Bigfoot serial killers.
Yeah, and they want to establish dominance too.
Yeah.
in that territory.
Yep.
Especially in an area where you've got to compete for resources.
Yeah.
Exactly. And with it being such a more extreme environment up here, I think that all those little factors add up to all these things just being that much more aggressive up here. And again, anything screaming at you in the woods that big is going to sound aggressive. I don't care if it stubbed its toe and was just letting out frustration. You are going to be scared shitless regardless. There's no way around it. These things are.
That's a brown pants moment, bro. That's what that is.
Yeah.
Definitely a
Yeah.
brown pants moment.
And I'm biased. I don't trust them for nothing, but I'm trying not to have the view I've been having of just it's not possible for them to be anything other than what I saw them do, because I know that's not true. So I'm trying to look at it more realistically. You know what I mean? Because I won't ever trust them. However, people have dealt with them in ways that I've never seen myself, but I can't discount that. It's one of those I got to accept it kind of deals. And for me, for me to make sense of it, I got to view it in context of, was this thing just trying to force them out? Was it trying to run them off? And again, it's really each situation is different, and it falls right in line with what we're talking about. Some of them hippies, maybe some of them's got a personal cop they're growing back up in there or something. You never know, maybe you're in the wrong place.
Or, some of them might just see us as a tasty treat.
Right. I'm seeing here in the chat, Roxanne was asking about the Alaska Triangle. Well, that's what they call it, but let's be honest, the whole state is a triangle. It's just so happens that triangle area they point out, that's where most of the people live. So that's where you hear most of the experiences from. It's the whole state. That triangle is just the population center of the state. That's why you hear more about the triangle. That's all it is.
I've got a question for you. How often do some of these bush pilots that will go out to drop off supplies out to these homesteaders out in the middle of the nowhere, how often do they come back and say there was nobody there anymore?
Good question. And see, that's where we'll never really know, because they have their cop out, open investigation. You can't even get a Freedom of Information Act report on it. So who's to say? Because as soon as it's reported to the higher ups, then it's just some crazy guy story at the bar. You see what I mean? Mm-hmm. So without that, what people view as legitimacy and a paper trail by the powers that be, it's just that dude that was at the bar telling me that crazy story. You know what I mean? So
we've noticed
it really takes away from people wanting to share their experience.
We've noticed that down here too. I mean, in some of the places, I know cops all over the Midwest because of going to training in different places, and you spend enough time in uniform, you get to know people from surrounding agencies and even beyond. But and I hear stories all the time, but they're like, but it's still an open case, so you can't get any information on it. Well, even the case 2 years ago up near Kansas City, when that Amazon driver was found mauled to death, and they said it was by dogs. That's still an open case, even though they said it was the dogs that did it. They've never released the necropsy, they've never released the autopsy photos, and they've never closed the case. If it was legit those dogs, they'd have closed it and just been done with it. But there's something seriously weird going on with that case.
Right. No. And that similar things up here. Recently I talked to he's still a state trooper, and he's in the process of retiring, but he shared an encounter from when he was a fish and game trooper. Because up here we got 3 flavors of troopers. You got the fish and game, you got judicial services, and then you got your regular blue shirt patrol troopers. The ones that'll come serve warrants and all that, right? So when he first started, he was fish and game, and he was out in the field. He came across hunters, and they ended up stealing a moose from the guys, and he watched this moose get flung. When he had backup come a day later, because they had to wheel her out of there and radio for help and wait for people to come and stuff. When they went back, his superior officer in the field told him that was a bear. That was a bear, and he wouldn't elaborate anymore. He said once his pension's secure, we'll have another conversation about stuff. But it was in the moment, not necessarily by some mandate above. It was the superior officer, whoever was in charge at the moment, making a call on the scene, going, "Nah, that was a bear," and that's what they had to deal with.
There's an old boy I talked to from here in central Missouri. You don't run into too many people that trap around here anymore. It still happens, but just not a whole lot of people will run trap lines here. And he was running trap lines along some of the river bottoms up off of not only the Niangua River, but off the Osage as well. And he told me a story. He said, I was trapping in an area up north of Bennett Springs, between Bennett Springs and Moon Valley. He said, and then one night I came back to my camp and went to bed, and the next day I woke up and every one of my traps were laying next to the fire pit, snapped. He said, I got the picture real quick. I didn't need to be trapping that area.
That would definitely be a motivating factor for relocation.
Yeah, he said, I haven't trapped there since. He said, hell, I won't even float that river.
I'm with you, Robbie. It's a GTFO moment on that one.
Yep.
Yeah. Ooh. If that's not a sign, then you need to talk to Ron Ingvall and say,
Bill Ingvall.
Yeah.
Steve Payton says, DA, the bones found on the river DDCC closed the case, stating natural causes and weather deteriorating. So that, there was a body that was found under mysterious circumstances on the Missouri River, and the state of Missouri swooped in, took the crime scene over, and their official cause of death was that it was, it was natural causes, and stop digging into it. Someone asked me if there was bears around here. Oh yeah, we've got tons of bears around here. You go out anywhere out in the woods around Springfield, and you run a really good chance of running into black bears. About 25, 30 years ago, they reintroduced black bears to northern Arkansas, and the population, with no big predators in the area, population exploded. And now people are catching them on Ring doorbells here in town. And we're the 3rd largest city in the state of Missouri. And we're not talking like at the edge of town, like people like, blocks and blocks into the city are catching black bears on their Ring doorbell cameras.
Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
How big? I mean,
it's
300 or 400 pounds is about a really big one around here. They're not massive. You even like with the black bears, you get up to Minnesota or up into Canada, black bears weigh 500-600 pounds, but a really big boar around here would be about 400 pounds.
That's still a big boy, man.
They still do some damage.
Yeah, that's a big boy.
Also, the Missouri Department of Conservation, if you ask them about wolves in Missouri, they'll tell you there hasn't been a confirmed wolf sighting in Missouri since the 1880s. That's bullshit, because there are red wolves in Missouri. And Edie Testerman, that's in the chat tonight, has game camera footage of them on his land, and he lives about 20 miles from me.
Wow.
Well, what did we find at Joe Ball's?
Yeah, large canine tracks.
Yeah.
A canine track bigger than that knife.
Yeah, probably about a 7-inch canine track. And that is a big canine track.
Oh, yeah. We've seen some. Oh, man. Oh, that's funny. They get massive, man. Massive. Really? We saw wolf tracks. I meant to record them while we were out there going out towards the glacier. But they're massive wolves out here, man. If you look it up, you see photos of guys holding them around their chest, a 6-foot guy with the head still above their head and their tail on the ground.
Oh my
Okay.
Big, massive wolves.
I'm going to do my research you wanted me to do, DA. I'm going to do it right now. Fred, have you ever heard of something up there around there called the saber wolf?
We call it the hell wolf. It's more like a dire wolf. Yes, I have. There's in some of the smaller villages west of the Yukon River, there's still talk of them being a large pack out that way. And another thing, there's still talk of woolly mammoths out that way as well.
I was
So,
reading some of the accounts, like in the Yukon territory, they were saying that some of the descriptions that hunters were turning in, saying, "Hey, I saw a bear that was bigger than any bear I've ever seen," and the description they gave was of the short-faced brown bear.
There are those as well. I think that it would. I mean, I wasn't there, but considering that they have genetic proof of polar bears and coastal brown bears or grizzly bears intermixing, I think that might be potentially one of those. However, again, I wasn't there, and I've seen massive bears that you would just think couldn't exist, the cartoon big. So I don't. I mean, maybe when I was younger, I would doubt something like hearing about a woolly mammoth. But when I was looking this native hunter in the eye, and he was like, "We heard it trumpeting, over there in the brush. We were too scared to go after it. We saw the tracks in the ground. They were 16 inches in diameter with 3 toes. We don't have anything around here that makes a track like that, So I don't discount it, and yeah, there's definitely still many stories of those hell wolves, as we call them, which are essentially like a dire wolf, just massive, humongous wolves that are just ravenous.
What do you think something like that would weigh?
Gosh, at least 500 pounds, if not more.
That's a big animal.
Okay, so
Yeah.
16-inch track.
Yeah,
That's 16
round,
inches.
16-inch round track.
I mean, you
Yeah.
can't even put that in a frame.
Yeah. And I mean, he was dead serious. There was 2 other guys that were with them, and they saw the tracks. That was the largest set of tracks, but there was other ones along with it that they were talking about because they were hunting caribou on snow machine.
Oh my god, man!
Yeah, and they were too scared to continue on to go and see for sure. But they heard them trumpeting off in the trees. That I would have to go put eyes on it. You know what I mean? I
would definitely want to see it.
There's
yeah, for sure.
around up in the Siberian area, and I think Eric was just talking about it too. I've heard reports, people still reporting seeing saber-toothed tigers or some form of saber-toothed cat up there that is still.
Yeah. Yep, and I am so thankful we do not have Siberian tigers over here, man. Holy crap. Those things are something else, man. Oh yeah, 100%, and very vengeful. There was that story of the Russian hunter that shot it, thought it ran off to die, and that bastard tracked him to his home and watched him for 4 days before killing him, and then killed everyone else he knew along the back trail. Like, gosh, man. Yeah.
That's a vindictive animal.
Yeah. I'll pass on that.
Holy crap, man.
So, what do you think? When we're talking about people going missing in Alaska, what do you think is by and large the most responsible? I know there's no one simple answer. There's lots of predation going on from different predators. What do you think is the most likely candidate to be the bulk of it? I mean, just the ones that go, they're gone. And I don't mean they find bear scat in part of the cadaver. I mean, cases where people just vanished.
From what I've been hearing from certain sources, have you ever heard of Mount Hayes? Now, there's stories of these UAP UFOs coming in and out of that place for the last few decades. From something that was shared with me, a very large portion of those going missing are in line with that whole dynamic going on with Mount Hayes. So up until I was shared that information, I would have thought the most prevalent factor for the missing is lack of knowledge. You know, these people going into places where they didn't really know where they were going. I don't think the 500 to 2,000 missing a year are all hairy man. I think a portion of them are, but from what was shared with me in recent history, it appears that it has to do with that UAP phenomenon in Mount Hayes.
Isn't there supposed to be a UFO base there or something like that, Fred?
They call it the Black Pyramid or something like that.
Yeah.
The Black Pyramid is up by Mount Denali, about 50 miles southwest of Denali. That's where the Black Pyramid is. From what was shared with me, they're two separate entities of the same thing, if that makes sense. They're just two separate locations of the same phenomenon going on.
Okay.
You know, if somebody is, planning on that, this could apply to the lower 48 as well as up at Alaska. But if somebody's planning on, making a day trip of going out to look for something like, say, Bigfoot, what advice would you give them to prepare?
Don't go ignorant. Bring something to protect yourself and trust your gut. A lot of people, they don't trust their intuition. They think, I'm just imagining things. Well, maybe you're not, maybe you're not imagining that 800-pound owl hoot. Maybe it's really an 800-pound something else. Maybe rethink what you're doing, don't play yourself cheap. Take your life serious. Don't play yourself cheap.
The Alaskan wilderness is a bit more dangerous than, say, the Mark Twain National Forest here in Missouri. But is there any circumstance where you would go out unarmed?
Hell no. No.
Okay.
People ask me why I go everywhere armed around here.
And that brings about a next question from Casey Calloway. Why are cryptids in Alaska seemingly so much more aggressive, Fred?
Well, we've been kind of discussing that off and on all night. The environment, the lack of people, the short seasons. There's such a limited time. And me as an indigenous person who lives subsistence, you feel the pressure. You have right now. Honestly, I'm thinking about my firewood supply next winter already, because you have to. It's along those lines. So, with everything being so extreme, we got a short growth season. We got a short season without the snow on the ground, and limited time to gather those resources. I think is the main contributor to why things get so out of hand so quickly and everything is so aggressive. Because even a go ahead.
It's basically all about survival then.
Yeah, 100%. And unless someone's been in this, you've been at 12 hours.
Yeah.
So it's someone was asking if I'm a vegetarian and hell no, I'm a carnivore. Veggies don't go too well.
As are the cryptids.
Right. Yeah. No, you need protein in an environment like this, man. And you can't get it from bean sprouts and beans. Not enough of it. That's for damn sure. You will die. You will die. If it's, sure. Yeah. Okay. That's a bit extreme. If you were living in a remote, let's say homestead way, and you were a vegetarian, you ain't going to make it. If you live somewhere where there's a grocery store, well, of course you can go and get your organics and all that crap. But, if you're a homesteader and you're relying strictly on veggies, you might as well dig a hole right next to your garden, because that's where you're going to end up.
Yeah.
Larry Burnland says, Fred, what's the smallest rifle cartridge and bullet weight you would recommend for your area?
Well, I think it's more placement, shot placement versus maybe necessarily the caliber. But I wouldn't go any smaller than, 30-06. I mean, okay, let's be fair. If it's shot placement, AR-10 platform, 308, something along those lines, but you want something at least 30 caliber, in my opinion. And the heavier weight, the better, anywhere between 180 grain to 220 grain. Something solid cast, especially for bear. The 10 millimeters got some good choices as far as some hard cast rounds. That 10 millimeters got some pep. However, I think there's a bit of hype to the 10 millimeter at the same time.
Dude, you hit that one up in the river with a 30-06 3 times center mass.
Yep, 180 grain soft tip core locks, man. Deadliest mushroom in the woods.
Yeah.
And it did nothing. And that's why if there's nothing else I could recommend, yeah, you can go 50 cal. Let's go extreme. You can go 50 cal. You can get all this other stuff, 338 Norma, 338 Win Mag. But if you're not shooting in the right place,
yeah,
then what would it matter? I would recommend head, neck. If you could see the neck, ear, groin, knees, slow its movement down. In that moment I shot, I was shooting for the biggest part I could find. It was pitch black. This thing was giving nothing back. It was still a big black nothing over there when I shot. There was no discernible features of the face. Otherwise, I would have been shooting for the eyes. I would have been shooting for the head.
And if you're talking heavy musculature and heavy frame, I mean, that's going to dissipate that energy big time.
Yeah, most of your AR platforms with a 5.56 round, probably not even going to phase it.
Probably not. Unless, you can see the whites of their eyes and you can get, some, strategic shots in. But you're talking about a very extreme situation. Who is that damn good with the gun? I'm pretty damn good with the gun. But are you good enough with a gun to have this thing rushing at you and the foresight and the fortitude to actually get a shot in its eye when it's running right at you?
That's like they taught us at the academy. I mean, when you're under pressure, just hitting the target alone is a much more difficult task. I've had people ask me, well, why don't you just shoot them in the hand and knock the gun out of their hand? I'm like, yeah, if somebody's shooting at you, the ability to hit something that small is out the window. You're just trying to keep yourself alive and in the threat.
That video where the police sniper shot the gun out of that guy's hand in the lawn chair, that has done. Look at it. I'm like, yeah, okay. First off, that guy was not waving the gun at the officers.
No.
The sniper had time to sit there, line the shot up, watch the guy's movements, get his timing down. That shot was like 15, 20 minute plus of planning that shot before that shot was actually taken.
Yeah.
And it was definitely not with a pistol.
Right. That guy was sitting in a chair and the revolver was dangling down between his legs.
Yep. Yeah.
That was a very controlled shot, in my opinion.
You're talking a static target, man, versus a dynamic moving target. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and dynamic in a way that it wants you dead. There's a difference. You got to understand, when you're dealing with the charging bear or something being aggressive, it's not charging at you to come play patty cake. It's charging to come and fuck you up, man. It is not there to play patty cake with you. It's there to end you. Yeah, it's something heavy caliber, definitely 30 caliber, and the density of these things. I heard the bullets impact. I heard them clearly impact. Now, we've shot walrus with the same gun. A shot or two with that same round, identical rifle, a 2,000-pound walrus is in death throes and it's done. You know, it's wallowing around. It's already belly up. It's done. It's a done deal. And grant you, they got nothing on the density of these things. They got a lot of blubber, you know, for staying warm in the ocean. That's why they waste so much. But the density is different. Everything is different with these things, you know. Um, and I would recommend you don't get yourself in a freaking situation where you're gonna have to defend yourself against one of these things. Let's start there.
Bingo.
Don't do it.
That's why we tell people all the time, we are never planning on hunting one of these things. The only way I'm going to shoot one is in self-defense.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. You know, it's that case of be careful what you wish for. You may get it, and what you may get may be a whole lot more than you had bargained for. You know, I knew a guy who wanted to trap a wolverine. Fair enough. He wanted a wolverine pelt. That he felt like that would, you know, make his life better for some reason, whatever. Well, this guy went trapping. He trapped himself a wolverine, good size one, and he didn't realize it wasn't dead. He walked up and attempted to grab it, and he
that was his first mistake.
Oh, yeah, because it bit onto him and would have let go. Well, this guy, he now has one of those metal hands where it's just the clippy knob thing, because it bit him in a way that it tore the tendons and caused an infection later, and they couldn't save the hand. He got his Wolverine. Yeah, he's got that.
Got him too.
Exactly. And that's no fair trade. You know, I used to do trapping when I was younger. I used to try to get the biggest moose, the biggest bear. But up until, in 95, we had to shoot a charging sow because we're doing bear control. And we shot this boar that, you know, had been lit up with a paintball gun, and we knew that was our target. We put shots on this big brute, and he took off running over the hill at the Electnagig dump, right? So we're like, crap. So we're waiting a few minutes before we track it in. We get up to the top of the berm outside of the dump there, and it's a wide bear path. It's well packed. You know, you got about 15 feet from brush to brush, wide open, and about 40 yards down as we get to the top, these two bear cubs come out. And these little buggers were so cute. They still had the little white fuzz on the front of them, you know, and they're just cute little ears. And they squalled at us and ran off the trail and climbed up a tree. Well, Mama Bear came out right behind them and looked right at us like, you did it, and came at us. And it wasn't a bluff charge, and we knew it immediately. And so we had to put that sow down. And it was my same cousin that was with me out at the shack. He was on my shoulder. He did not flinch. He did not falter. He actually put the kill shot on it, shooting it between the eye and the ear, because I had just run out of rounds. We hit this sow with 9 total shots before she stopped her forward momentum. She was over 800 pounds. Well, because of this trophy type of deal we were doing, because most of the trouble bears are the older ones, you know, the ones that got loose teeth, you know, and sometimes it's a younger one, around a 4-year-old male, but typically the real problem bears are the old males that no longer have dominance, but they're still big as shit. You know what I mean? And because of that, chasing a trophy, my actions directly caused the death of this female bear, because we had to defend ourselves. But had we not been there, I wouldn't have had to been put in that position. And so we called Fish and Game and told them, hey, we told them everything I just told you. They said, shoot the cubs. I told them to go fuck themselves. They can go shoot the cubs. And I never went hunting for anything trophy ever again. Just because, and that's just my own personal feelings, because I can't explain how big of a piece of crap I felt having put myself in that situation and caused the deaths of 4 bears because of one thing we were doing, you know? It just, so the whole trophy thing went out the window when I was still pretty damn young. So yeah, just I don't know. I hunt for food and that's it. But I can understand why someone would want that, the bravado, when you're young and you're just like, yeah, I killed the biggest moose out there, that kind of thing. I get it. But yeah, just I don't know. It ruined my whole trophy outlook, that's for sure.
I can imagine.
I've always, anything we hunted, we ate, and I've never hunted
Yeah.
for anything other than to fill the freezer.
Right. It looked like Sam Hine 11 had a question and withdrew it. I didn't catch what their question was.
Neither. The chat's moving by so fast. If it's not all in caps, I may not even see it.
Yeah.
So I
Make sure you
apologize
put
if I
all your
missed your question.
Because
Right.
most of us are old and can't read that well without glasses anyway. So put them in all caps so we can read them. Okay, put them in caps so I can read them then.
He said, why do you think cryptids seem to be mostly impervious to gunshots? I scrolled back and found it.
Oh, okay. I think it's just density, like the density of their bones and musculature. I firmly believe it's along those lines. There's the woo side. Let's go there if that's what they're curious about. I don't know. When we were attacked, like I said before, they weren't dancing around a Ouija board or doing any seances outside beforehand. There was no portals and there was no mind speak. So I can't personally speak to anything outside of the flesh and bone that I shot at, and it was obvious the bullets just didn't penetrate enough. So it has to deal with the density of the muscle and the bone and whatnot.
Often figured the same thing. And also they taught us at the law enforcement academy that even in critical situations, officers who are trained marksmen, they're shot, putting rounds on target drops to less than 10% when you're in a critical situation. So I think a lot of cases where people are like, I'm a good shot, I know I hit it, they may have missed entirely.
Yeah, that's very true. Had I not heard when I shot at this thing, I wasn't shaking. I was spot. I knew right where I was aiming, and I heard the impacts. And I never felt so defeated in my life, man. For nothing, absolutely nothing to happen. It didn't flinch. I mean, okay, it stopped moving forward, but it didn't flinch. It didn't wiggle. Nothing. It was just like, it was the damnedest thing. For the longest time, I wouldn't even look at a 30-06 in no way with respect. You know what I mean? Even though it was more placement than anything, for a good long while, I wouldn't even consider taking a 30-06 out in the field. It had to be 338 Win Mag, at the smallest. Otherwise, it just, Oh, okay. I get the blame for the sound issues, huh?
That's the only thing I can think of, because I only hear it like when you're not talking. When you're talking, it we hear you clear, but I've got headphones in, so it's not picking up the audio here. And I don't know what the sound setup is in Robbie and Doc. We don't normally get this kind of feedback.
Damn it, Fred.
I'm thinking it's probably just an internet issue, to the simple fact that you're kind of in the butt crack of nowhere.
It's
Yeah, fair enough.
It's that black satellite.
Damn satellites.
Yeah. Yep. Tracking me. Causing issues. But hey, guys, I got to get going here. I got some things I got to do, and it's already 6:30 my time, and I turn into a pumpkin around 8 o'clock. But I want to thank you guys for having me on. I appreciate the, hanging out with you guys and chatting, and we'll have to do it again soon, man. So, let me know and give me a little bit of heads up, and I'll be happy to join you guys again.
Always good to see you.
You are welcome anytime.
I always enjoy it, Fred.
Yeah. And hey, you guys have a great rest of your show, and thanks everyone for their questions in the chat, and we'll see you guys around here shortly.
All right, brother, you be safe.
Be safe, Fred.
Always, man. Always. We'll catch you guys later. Thanks.
See ya.
Have a good one, dude. I just posted Fred's link again in the chat. So for those of you who haven't had a chance to swing by and like, share, and subscribe to his channel, please do so. It's again the subarctic Sasquatch, so definitely check it out. He's got some fantastic encounter stories, and some of them are pretty damn terrifying. And I think you would definitely enjoy his channel.
I think you're right, Da. Because as soon as Fred cut out, because I could hear it while you were talking.
Yeah.
As soon as he cut out, it stopped. So I think it was internet.
I don't think it was like anything Fred was doing.
No, it's just
it was just the fact that his internet is coming from, well, the interior of Alaska. So it's somewhere along those connection lines. I think we were picking up a little feedback.
Hey,
how you doing?
Hey, y'all doing? Yeah, Fred's stories are pretty awesome, man. I mean, I remember that first time I heard the story of his encounter at that mining cabin. I mean, that gave me a whole newfound respect for what they have up there and how violent it is. It's so violent because it's like literally kill or be killed. Well,
you think about it, we get so used to either hearing one side or the other down here. Oh, it was either a great experience or, it scared the shit out of me experience.
Right.
But everything up there is, oh crap, it tried to kill me.
Yeah. Up there is like, I'm about to get my ass, like I'm turned into Sam Squatch poop, know, that's literally it. I've never heard anything from British Columbia and above that was a peaceable encounter, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Headless Valley. I mean,
Nahanni Valley.
Yeah, Nahanni Valley. Holy shit, man.
Or the Nohedi Valley, whichever way you
Nohedi Valley, yeah.
Nohedi Valley.
Well, some of the people that have been through Nahanni, in fact, I can't remember the guy's name. He's a Canadian, has a channel. We had him on the show one night, and I need to try to get him back. But he did a thing on the Nahanni Valley, and he was talking about some of the people that have gone through that valley and talked to the native tribes in the area, and they described woolly mammoths.
Yeah.
Well, I watched a documentary, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but they were saying as recently as 2020, people were reporting seeing saber-toothed cats in the same areas.
Hell no.
The thing is sometime if you're bored, folks, open up Google, go to Google Maps, and bring up just the United States, and then click on the satellite image. Don't just look at the little printed map. Look at the satellite image of just North America and realize just how much unbroken green there is.
So much territory. So many.
And you don't even have to have that huge of an area for to have some sort of encounter.
Yeah.
There's a lake just north of Springfield called Fellows Lake. It's owned by city utilities. It's the main reservoir for Springfield's drinking water. And you can go out there and day use the place. They lock it up at dusk. But there were quite a few houses out in that area. And just the other day, Noah and I were out there. We were shooting one of the promo videos we do for upcoming episodes. And there weren't that many people out there. It was a little chilly. And we were out there and we're just filming and talking. And on the far side of the lake, we hear knock, knock, knock. We heard tree knocks right out there. And we're like, what the hell? The town's just over there. What the hell?
Well, case in point to that, DA, when Doc was up here in that class this past June or July, whichever one it was, we're standing out there. It was a Saturday morning, Doc, and we stand out there and watched.
Yeah.
And we're on right there off of I-85, which is a major highway, and right in the middle of town. I mean, this is not like a rural area, but we're all sitting there shooting shit. And look, here come 4 or 5 deer, Doc.
It was 5. It was 5, dude.
Just come off of Garlington Road, which is runs right off of I-85. They just come walking across from was like they were coming from the coffee shop across
Yeah.
the road.
Yeah.
And it's like, you ain't even got to go in the woods to hunt deer. There they are right there in the parking lot.
Yeah. They were right there because you're like, holy shit, look at them deer. I was like, what? Yeah, it was a lot of them. I mean, we've talked about this, DA. I mean, the amusement park. What's the amusement park you're talking about in your books?
Silver Dollar City. I was just there earlier today.
Okay, so Silver Dollar City. I mean, eating out of dumpsters there. How often does that happen?
Probably happens a lot more than we realize. I worked there for a couple of seasons as an overnight security officer, and we would hear weird crap there all the time.
I mean, there's something to that, dude.
Yeah.
Here's the funny part. Silver Dollar City, if you went down to the lake and then followed the coastline, it's not very far from Joe Bald. I mean, just a short drive.
Or a short swim.
Yeah. It's right there on Table Rock Lake.
Especially
someone asked about a Wahila. Someone asked about, I think it was Roxanne Delgado asked about the Wahila. The Wahila is something that's been spotted in and around the Nahanni Valley, and it's supposed to be a wolf-like creature that has the ability to shift between wolf and human forms. So maybe it's some sort of type of werewolf, or maybe it's just a dog man that has his shit together. I don't know, but it's supposedly seen around in and around the Nahanni Valley.
Yeah, he's not like them other werewolf. He's got his shit together.
He's cultured, Robbie.
Yeah.
He's cultured.
Yes. Randy Copeland says, DA, have you ever talked to Steve from How to Hunt? I have no way to contact him. I wouldn't mind talking to Steve Isdall. Seems like a really cool dude. I've watched his channel quite a bit, but I don't know how to reach out to the guy. So another question. Oh yeah, Edie Testament says, can you imagine doing a paranormal investigation at SDC? They would not let you, guaranteed. The owners of that park, the Hershans, there's no way they're going to let a paranormal team come in there, because they want that the image of that park to be a pristine family place. They don't serve alcohol there. They don't, they're very, very guarded about the image of that park. And there was weird stuff that happened in that park that we were told as security, like no matter what you hear coming from Marvel Cave after hours, don't go in there.
Seriously?
Yeah. And they cited that, they said it's air issues, it's air quality issues, but the air quality is fine to run tours through it all day long. But once the park's empty and no one's around, we're not supposed to go down there.
It's that nighttime air. It's a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yes, the nighttime air gets bad.
That nighttime air hits different, man. It does. Yeah. It's got much different gases.
I was told, we were walking by and I heard something. It sounded like something echoed from the entrance of that thing, and it was more like just like a grunt echo. And I'm like, did that just come from the cave? And the guy that was training me when I first started, he's like, don't ever pay attention to anything that comes out of that. We get weird noises coming out of there all the time, and we are not allowed to go in there under any circumstances after dark. I'm like, really? Why? He's like, don't know. They won't say, and we're not allowed.
Airflow, man.
Yeah,
it's all
bad air.
Holy crap.
That's what we call a clue.
Well, I'm pretty sure there are places in that park that are haunted. You would go in to double check doors and stuff and find stuff moved. I've heard, footsteps following me in the dark.
No.
That park is creepy as hell once it's shut down. It's fun. I really thoroughly enjoyed working there. But they're especially certain parts of that park that are really, really, really creepy when the lights are off.
I'm good.
Oh, would you look at the time?
Steve Payton says, so DA, how many times did you go in said cave? I've done the tour of that cave, but I never went in there after dark. I didn't want to get fired. I really enjoyed the job.
Can you run a drone in there?
You probably could, but recovering it might be a little tough.
Yeah, especially if there's EMF anomalies in there too.
Yeah, because once it gets below ground, once you lose line of sight, you may lose the drone.
Mm.
Or if something grabs a hold of it.
Yeah, smacks it out of the air.
So Casey Calloway says, do any of you guys remember the family members that were found dead in National Park? It was 3 of them with their dog.
I think that was out in California, and they blamed it on bad water. But it's still an open case, and you can't Freedom of Information Act. It was, but the official story was they drank bad water.
It was a mom, dad, and the baby and their dog. They are all together.
Okay. Well, just throwing a monkey wrench in that. Maybe the people drank bad water, but dog
the baby
ain't gonna drink
didn't.
bad.
And the dogs are smart enough. If they smell bad water, they're not drinking it.
Yeah.
Anti-Venom says radio controlled car with a camera. That's a cool idea in theory, but if you've not seen Marvel Cave, you go in the entrance of the cave, and then you take stairs down about 1,000 feet to the bottom of that cave.
Damn.
That cave is so big, at one point they actually inflated a hot air balloon inside the cavern.
Are you serious, dude?
I'm serious. It's massive. And then it branches off from that main cavern. But they don't even know where all of those branches go. It's never been fully explored.
Oh my God, that's
like a cavern you could park Airwolf in.
But the entrance would be a little tough. It's too small. But you could put. There are some buildings that are smaller than the interior of that cavern. I mean, like skyscrapers. You could probably put a 20-story skyscraper inside that cavern. It is just massive.
That's not terrifying at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, not at all.
Counter Cult says, dudes, Star Fox mentioned that map of the Dogman NADP verified accounts eerily respond to Pallades missing map. Have you seen this? It's amazing how many of the missing 411 cases directly overlap with the cave systems. And Missouri is riddled with caves.
Well, I mean, you take the Pallades 411, you take the National Park system, cave system, and then you take the disappearances and you overlap all of them. It's kind of scary.
Yep.
It's honestly, it's not coincidental at that point,
Right. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we're talking about the missing 411s. We don't even know the full extent of how many have gone missing, because attempts to get the National Park Service to release the numbers, they wanted like $3 million or something stupid like that just to get the paperwork, and that's crazy.
What?
Yeah. David Pallades tried to get the actual, recorded information from the National Park Service, and they said in order for them to actually release all of that information, it was going to cost like $3 million.
Holy crap, man! Holy.
If I won the lottery, I'd be like, all right, let's see it.
Yeah. Then they'd be like $6 million.
Yeah, like, well, costs have gone up since then. Since an hour ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you never get it, man. You never get it. No FOIA information there.
Yeah. Robert D says, what's it like? 1 million people per year worldwide. According to NAM US, more than 600,000 people go missing in the United States every year. Now, most of those are people that showed up, but there's still a good number of that's just never heard from them again.
So
that's
only been reported. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do a missing and recovered versus missing not recovered, and see how many are not recovered.
And then throw the transient population in there, who a lot of times go missing and nobody there to report
homeless
them.
populations, illegals coming across the border. Yeah. Those don't get reported missing.
So,
or even people that are undocumented living in cities, if they disappear, their families don't call the cops.
Yep. So it very well could be close to 1 million.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah, we may never know the exact numbers, simply because, like I said, a lot of them go unreported, or in cases like I asked Fred about some of these people that live, way out in the homesteading areas back in Alaska. They'll probably never know the actual numbers of times that a bush pilot went to give somebody supplies and they were just gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to say what happened to them out in the back country of Alaska because
Yeah.
their nearest neighbor might be 100 miles away.
Yeah. I had a dude in my last class up in Seattle, and we were talking about this stuff, and he was like, yeah, he said, my place is accessible only by boat or seaplane. That's it. And he told me, he said, people go missing up here all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. They go missing.
Edie Testerman says the small cave in Ha Ha Tonka, the overhang, I felt like something was there waiting for me to go under it so it would grab me. Well, you do realize what that cave is called, right? It's called the Devil's Kitchen. Yeah, Ha Ha Tonka State Park, you can look it up. That cave is called the Devil's Kitchen. Why do you call something? Why do places like that get names like that? Like, what? Yeah, you're like, oh, this is a beautiful cave. We're going to call it the Devil's Kitchen.
Yeah, people get et up in there.
Yeah.
They get et.
And you look at some of the old like plat maps and old atlases, especially the older ones where they showed like the old place names and stuff. You look at some of those and you're going to find crazy names for some of these places like Booger Woods or Devil's Canyon, or you find these names in all of these places, and anymore these places only the locals know that they're still called that, and you could be wandering into a place with a hell of a reputation. And
Casey Calloway had a good point. He said if it's 600,000 in the U.S., it must be 5 million in Russia. I mean, up in that area. In that interior up there, that rugged interior up there, oh my God!
You're getting those remote parts of Siberia. Someone going missing may just be, a fact of life. Like, oh, polar bear probably got him.
Yeah, that's like a fart in the wind, man. It's gone.
Right.
It's not even counted. Damn.
I want to go back up to now that the weather's getting better. I want to go back up to Ha Ha Tonka and do some filming. I want to take my drone up there and get into some places that are hard to get to. But up there at Ha Ha Tonka, there's a reason why I chose that area for the big fight scene at the end of Apex Predator Wolf Moon, because that is some woolly territory, and there have been sightings right there at that lake, and that's Lake of the Ozarks. What we call the Niangua branch of the Lake of the Ozarks, because it's where the Niangua River empties into Lake of the Ozarks, and that is some woolly territory.
Damn.
Miss Lene says a place called Devil's Backbone is about 20 miles from my place. If you look at some of these older maps, the countryside is littered with places like that. That's how you get places like Werewolf Springs. It's called that for a reason.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not for nothing. They, like you said, DA, that when they named these places, it wasn't like it was not a fashion statement. That's not the term I'm looking for. But it wasn't to garner that 15 minutes of fame like a lot of stuff is nowadays. It was to send a message.
Yeah.
Devil's Kitchen, stay the hell out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, well, there's a place up in Lebanon that me and a buddy of mine used to go to. We would always go there in the wintertime, and it was called Rattlesnake Springs. And we always went there in the wintertime, and I finally asked the guy that owned the land, I'm like, why do you call it Rattlesnake Springs? He said, put your snake boots on and go anywhere near that place in the summertime and you'll see why. So I did. I went back down there, and that place was crawling with freaking snakes. I got about 50 yards from the spring, and I was like,
nah,
screw this.
I'm good. Yeah.
That's one of the few snakes in the United States that I do not want to mess with is a rattlesnake. Them things scare me.
Yeah, I don't like snakes. Counter Cult Podcast, Dick M says, DA, do you buy the conspiracy of government breeding programs, Dulce rumors, etc.? You know, I definitely believe that both Dogman and Bigfoot existed long before our government had the ability to genetically alter anything. But that is not to say our government won't try to weaponize something. So I firmly believe the government has at least tried to weaponize these things, and they may have succeeded for all we know. But I think these things were here long before us,
Yes.
and if the government can figure out a way to use them as a weapon, they will.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
Anti-Venom says we have a Devil's Den here. We have a Devil's Den State Park somewhere around here too.
We got Devil's Fork up here.
There's a reason these places are called that. There was a local lady that worked for one of the news channels. She was I think she did did like local events and things like that. She was on the local news. She wasn't the anchor, and she didn't do weather. She did like, it wasn't sports. She was one of the people that would do like local stories and breaking stories. Her and her husband went camping down at Roaring River State Park down by other side, down at the far end. Robbie, you know where we were at when we were down there at Blunk Road.
Mm-hmm.
Roaring River is farther down from that. Another well, it's a little ways down, but it's off that direction. Roaring River State Park, they had a daytime sighting of a Sasquatch catching fish at Roaring River State Park, and they basically, treated her like she was absolutely crazy. She's like, "No, I'm telling you, this is what we saw," and she was a local newscaster.
holy crap.
I think she ended up leaving town because of it. I don't think she's here anymore. But you can still go on YouTube and find that. But I could probably find the link and show it. But it's still on YouTube. I've watched it several times. Larry Bertrand says, "DA, are there many cryptid reports around Stockton Lake?" Yeah, actually around Stockton Lake, there's quite a bit. Eric Ede Tisterman was saying just the other day that there's a campground, much like Joe Bald on Stockton Lake, that has been sealed off by the Army Corps of Engineers. So I need to get with him and go find that campground. Also, I know some people that have vacation cabins. They go and spend weekends that are along the shores of Stockton Lake. And they said at night they've had things try their doorknob. And, they're out there. It's unlikely to be a neighbor because the neighbors are few and far between. Miss Lene says, "DA, did you know the southern end of Illinois is called Little Egypt? Makes me think of Anubis." Very, very well could. Oh, of course, you've got, references to that. Memphis, Tennessee is named after a city in Egypt. Brandy Copeland says, "I've been near Monkey Mountain." We've got all these local places. There are lots of sightings in the Ozarks. You get down along some of these more remote rivers and lakes, and you're going to run into places where there are things that probably don't want you there. I knew a guy I used to work with that had a camping plot up on Stockton Lake, and he had problems because he would put out food plots for the deer. That's where he would go hunt. And he had a problem with feral hogs coming in and wrecking his food plots. And he said one night he was sitting out behind his little hunting shack, and he said the most god awful roar he's ever heard in his life. Then he heard pigs go to screaming, and then he didn't see him around anymore.
Somebody wanted some bacon. But yeah, I guarantee you, if we had somebody representing every state in the country, every state has got some kind of place that's named like that, or has some kind of story, legend, something that's done for a reason. I mean,
my middle brother, he had an encounter over a decade ago, and it wasn't until after one of our shows one night he texted me, and he said, "Hey, never had this kind of. I've never told anybody about this because I'm a doctor, and people might think I'm nuts. But he had a swamp ape encounter in Mississippi down in the swamps. I mean, and he's just an everyday Joe. He's not out there looking for something. He was just out there having a little bonfire after he cleared some property off and things like that. But it happened to him, and I think it happens to more everyday people than we take into account, because these everyday people don't want to come out and even say anything because for fear of am I going to be labeled as a freaking nut job?
Mhm.
I was told a story from the Appalachians. Years and years ago, a lot of the Irish immigrants would run deer with dogs. And I know some places they still, they'll hunt deer with dogs. It doesn't happen as often anymore because there's a lot of regulations against it. But a lot of the hill folk living out there would hunt these deer by running them with dogs.
Mm-hmm.
And these old boys were out one night camping, hunting deer, and one of their deer dogs took off, and then they heard it yelp a few seconds later, a little bit later. And while they were sitting there at the fire grabbing the rifles, the dog's head comes sailing back into the firelight.
Oh shit!
Said it was the last time they ran dogs in that area.
Yeah. Look, Robbie, what time is it? Yeah.
GTFO.
Time to GTFO, man.
Time to relocate.
Yeah. No doubt, man. Holy crap.
Folks, one thing I do want to say real quick is one thing we've noticed with the analytics is that a good chunk of our viewers are not subscribed to the channel. We do appreciate you guys coming around and checking out the show. We would very much appreciate if you guys would subscribe to the channel. It helps our analytics. It helps the channel continue to grow, and we would appreciate very much if you guys would hit that subscribe button and ring that and put that little hit the little bell icon so you get alerted anytime we go live. We would definitely love to have you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like and subscribe is a real thing.
And it's free.
Doesn't cost a dime.
Nope.
Yep, subscribing is free. Doc, you want to tell us a little bit about Dark Angel Medical?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Never heard of it.
Hey, Doc, turn around, look behind you. There's a big
that thing.
That thing.
Yeah. So, folks, if you have not ever heard about darkangelmedical.com, check out some of DA's books, and you will see my ancestors and my current ancestors. And you you like that, Robbie? I figured Robbie like that.
My current ancestors.
My current ancestors. But Dark Angel Medical was brought about as an idea that I had years ago to enable people to be a difference. And if you go to our website, darkangelmedical.com, you'll see the number of trauma kits that we have, anything from a minor boo-boo kit to all the way to, oh my God, somebody's bleeding out, or a lot of people are bleeding out kits. And you've seen those kits in DA's books. DA and I started talking about this stuff over a decade ago. And this is something that is near and dear to my heart because I want people to be able to make a difference. And I'm going to be teaching a class this weekend. I'm teaching a class next weekend. It is to bring about force multipliers in the medical world, because in a bad situation, help may be hours away. And that's where you, as the viewer, come in to be the important, life-altering factor in that decision. So head over to darkangelmedical.com, check out our kits, check out our training. We have a free online training videos available on our YouTube channel, Dark Angel Medical. And we also have an online training course if you can't get to one of our in-training courses, which we would love for you to come to. But the big thing is making sure you have the information, number one, and number two, making sure you have the proper kit in to help someone else in a bad situation. And if you use the code Cryptid25, That is literally our biggest code right now because we don't make any money off of that. That's just to give you the product that you need with the guarantee that we have. That is, if you use that product to save someone else's life, we will absolutely 100% cover whatever you used to save that person's life. So that's called our Kit for Life Guarantee. So head over to darkangelmedical.com, check out our products, check out our kits, and you are going to be the difference in that situation. And that's all I got to say about that.
You had a question. David By says, Doc, any word on when you'll have the HEDR and VISR kits back in stock?
Yeah, those were ordered last August, David. Yeah. So, yeah, those were ordered last August, brother. So they were supposed to have been in last November, but yeah, I don't know. They may be in next month. Who knows? That's nylon has been our Achilles heel. So I apologize for any delay in the products that y'all are wanting, but I have no control over that. Our manufacturers are here, based in the U.S., and it's really hard to get a solid estimate on those products. So just if you subscribe to the newsletter, we will be sending emails out to those subscribers to let you know when the products are back in stock. So I apologize for that. That is unfortunately far beyond the realm of my control.
Bobby, you want to tell us a little bit about Scallywag Tactical?
Well, certainly.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Certainly. Scallywag Tactical is another one of our affiliates, another veteran-owned company. And as you see in mine and Doc's hands, this is the Bounty. Doc's got the black one. I got the silver one. DA's got the black one too. This little implement here will relocate a limb or two, and I don't mean a limb off a tree.
Well, might even remove a noggin under the right circumstances.
This is more my speed right here.
That's Doc's Bounty.
Doc's broadsword.
But
a pygmy's Zweihander.
Y'all need to hush. That's ugly.
He's gonna remember this when we're down on the ground bleeding.
That's
Like,
ugly.
oh, who's cracking jokes now?
Like I always say, Doc, why do you kick a man when he's down?
It's the safest time.
You ain't got to raise your leg as far.
I like that.
That's an old fireman joke. Anyway, they make some of the best blades, whether it be folders, axes, because I guess that's still considered a blade, fixed blades, folders, single purpose weapons, kitchen knives, whatever kind of blade you want. I mean, the dew claw was
Come on, Robbie.
Had a brain fart. The dew claw that DA's got right there. I've got that on my turnout, my camp pack. That's
part of my
probably
EDC.
That's the best camp knife I've ever used in my life. I mean, it's sharp. It's weighted perfectly to cut up kindling, but you can use it for cutting anything. It's really nice, Clark. Really
nice, Clark.
About y'all, but as part of my EDC kit, I carry a folder and I carry a fixed blade. And on my day pack, which is right down here, I've got one of Doc's kits, and I've got another knife. It's actually hooked through the Molly tabs on my day kit.
This is my favorite knife right here.
Jolly Roger? Yes.
Jolly Roger. Man.
I love my Jolly Roger.
Yeah.
I carry this one just about every day.
If you're going to carry some of these Scallywag Tacticals, you better have one of them. Because, he'll tell you, don't be a dummy like me and try to catch an open blade if it falls out of your hand.
Because it'll cut you 3 ways.
Long,
deep, and continuous.
Very good. We did it. Check them out. Go over to Scallywag Tactical. Let them know we sent you. Look on the blemish blades. You know, when you go to checkout, hit code DA Roberts 10, get yourself an extra 10% off your entire order, and that does stack up with the blemish blades too.
Sure does.
Yeah.
But Craig's a great guy. You know, if you got a problem with anything, reach out to him. He'll hook you up. He'll take care of you.
Craig has
Well,
fantastic
some sweet
customer
tea
service.
with it.
Yep. Because
Right.
like I've always said, you're not just a number to him. You're not just a sell of a product to him like you would be to Benchmade or any of those other big multiple $billion companies, Trade, any of that stuff. You know, you just a number to them. You're just somebody who bought one of their knives and they could care less. To Craig, you're somebody he wants to keep as a customer for life. And I promise you, if you ever have something that happens like that, he'll make you a customer for life.
Even if you break a tip on a blade like Robbie did.
No, wasn't me. It was
That was
Steve.
Steve.
Oh, it was Steve. Steve. Sorry, Robbie. I didn't mean to cuss you. Even if you use your knife for what it's not designed to be, they will still help you out. And all the while blessing your heart.
And for you Southern people out there, you know what Doc just said when he said blessing your heart. You know what that means.
Ooh,
Yes,
that's
I've got one.
Yeah.
That's what I carry on my body armor, Doc. I got me one of them crambits.
Well, ain't y'all fancy?
That
One of them
karambit is sharp as hell, too. Oh, my God. You lop your own damn finger off if you're not careful with that thing.
One of them icarambits.
So who else are we going to talk about?
Well, there is one other of our affiliates.
Some little
And
tactical
that's,
movie guy.
Yeah, the tactical midget himself, Ken Brock, over at brockblades.com. I think we've all got one we can show off. Mine and Robbie's is called the Skane Dhu, which is a variant of an old Scottish knife, which was basically a field utility knife that was used from everything from cutting fish to cheese and, using it as a fork to eat your dinner. Robbie, Doc, what's yours called?
I like cutting the cheese. It is called the. It's called the.
You was a cheese cutter.
It is. This is called the Street Weasel. I just like saying that name.
I love it.
Wasn't that your nickname in high school?
Yeah, it was my name in high school. Shh. Yeah.
But
So
Brock
the Street Weasel from Brock Blades, handcrafted, American made, and he's a good old boy from South Kakalaki, 30 plus years SWAT LE veteran that is just all about bringing good blades to good folks.
And whereas Scallywag Tactical blades are second to none, they are all mass produced. If you have two of any of the model, they're going to look just alike. Ken's blades are all handmade in the shop behind his house. These are all custom one-of-a-kind jobs. No two will ever be identical. There's so many different choices you can choose for blade style, for materials, for handle color. Ooh, that's a nice one, Doc.
I help make this at his shop.
Nice.
This is
That's
called
your Doc Holiday?
No, this is called the Pimp Dagger. So yes. Yeah.
But again, Ken's blades are all made in the shop behind his house, but that doesn't mean that they're made to set on a shelf and look pretty. They're all functional blades.
He cussed you every minute of that grind on that.
Oh,
that
he
dagger.
did. He said, "Dude, I hate you for this."
The beauty of Ken's blades is if you know anybody that's a first responder or a veteran or active military, the gift of a custom blade is something that'll be treasured for a very long time. And the fact that these blades are, again, not meant to be set on a shelf and looked at, these are serviceable knives. You could have a custom blade made for somebody you care about, and they would treasure it. If you know anybody that's a knife guy like me, Robbie, or a Doc, we'll fall all over ourselves for a badass knife. But check out brockblades.com. You can get 10% off your entire order by using the code cryptid10. And if you order a custom blade, make sure in the description you mention that you heard about brockblades.com from here on DA Ex Machina, and he'll make certain you get your 10% off even on the custom build.
Yes.
That's all we got to say about that.
I do want to remind folks, the analytics are showing that close to half of the people that are coming back and reoccurring watching the show are not subscribed to the channel. And we would very much appreciate it if y'all would join the channel, hit that subscribe button because it's free. It doesn't cost you a thing, but the second it takes you to click that button. And I know some folks have had some issues with the commercials that YouTube's been showing, even in the middle of the live. I apologize for that, but the revenue from the commercials does help us keep the channel afloat because there's streaming services and mic. When we buy equipment and things like that, it's not. This isn't just something that we can do because it's all on us to when a camera goes down to get a new camera, or when a computer craps out we got to replace the computer. So this has been an expensive hobby for me for the last few years because I've been putting a lot of money in it and haven't been making any. But the channel, those commercials were going to help the show stay free. I mean, that way we can still get stuff without anybody having to pay out for premium services or anything like that. However, if you are tired of those commercials, you can always run an ad blocker or become a YouTube premium member. I'm a YouTube premium member. It's like less than $20 a month, and I don't see commercials on anything. So, I would definitely recommend that because I listen to a lot of YouTube music when I write, and to me, that's just perfect. So I don't have to hear a stupid commercial every fourth or fifth song.
Yeah.
Let me check the comments and see if I missed anything. Richard Reed says, I'm subscribed. It helps you guys get ahead. We sure appreciate that. It does. The more subscriptions we have, it gets us further into the YouTube algorithm. We just broke 7,500, and we're hoping to see 10,000 coming up soon. Because the more subscribers we have, the more we're going to show up in the algorithm. The more YouTube will suggest our channel, and it helps us to continue to grow the audience. But we've got a lot of cool stuff coming. This coming Saturday, I'm going to have you see him in the chat, E.D. Testerman. He's going to be our guest. He's an author, good friend of mine, and a great investigator. He invited my wife and my son and I out to a haunted bar in Everton, Missouri. And we went out there last Friday and recorded and did some EVP sessions. And well, we got some pretty interesting stuff. So we're going to be talking about that, showing some pictures and talking about the history of that bar and stuff like that. We'll have him on the show with us. And I think it's going to be a good time. I think you're going to enjoy this one because that place was pretty damn creepy. So join us on Saturday when we are talking about the haunting of an Everton bar, and you guys are going to love it. Especially Doc. I'm waiting for him to giggle like a schoolgirl when I say this. The name of the bar is the Shaved Beaver. That sounded more like Ray Stevens laughing there. Me again, Margaret.
I see you there, Margaret.
Don't look, Ethel.
How'd you get that motorcycle up on a high dive, Bubba? Buddin'.
Corey, don't answer the phone, buddin'.
Buddin'.
That's right.
Oh
You're
my
out.
God. Okay.
And got a free shot.
Seen Ray Stevens? This is a side note. If y'all not seen Ray Stevens, dude, oh my God, where the hell have you been all your life? Look at Ray Stevens from the streak from the 70s when the streaking was the thing to
Harry the Hairy Ape, to
Mississippi
Squirrel, Margaret, Mississippi Squirrel Revival.
Yes.
The Ballad of the Blue Cyclone parts 1 and 2.
Oh. Thank you.
Boy, if you don't leave a cyclone alone, you're gonna need the Undertaker services,
Man.
not mine.
Y'all need
Hey, punk, you forgot your chair.
Cyclone. Yeah, you need to watch the Blue Cyclone, son. Come on.
Oh, to me, that's just then he pile drive me right there on the hard concrete.
Y'all need to watch you some Ray Stevens videos and listen.
Oh my God, this took a left turn. Oh my God.
I know. Holy shit, snaps.
Hey, but it was 2 hours and 15 minutes into the show before we took that left turn.
That's true.
That is true. That
You
is
make
true.
You make a good
If
point.
you haven't watched any Ray Stevens, go on to YouTube and Google Ray and search Ray Stevens.
Oh, and you will thank us tomorrow if you do that.
If you're a wrestling fan, you need to watch Blue Cyclones Part 1 and 2.
Yes.
Got a super chat from Casey Calloway. Hey, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. That is awesome. Appreciate you, sir.
My man. Thank you, KC.
High fives all around.
Okay, high five. Very nice. I like.
It's very nice.
It's very nice.
Very nice. Here we go again, Doc.
Yeah.
Look at that.
Derailed that train.
And he ain't wearing no clothes. What?
Don't look at though.
Don't
Too
look.
late.
It's been
She
too
done
late.
been
You've been
incensed.
incensed.
Too late. She done got a free shot.
I'm sorry, I snorted.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did.
Excuse me, sir. Did you see what happened?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I did. Oh, I love that. I love Ray Stevens. I'm not going to list a bunch of Ray Stevens tonight. And if you want a good Christmas song, Ray Stevens has got a good one where he talks about Santa being the secret head of the CIA.
Oh,
yes, Lord.
We didn't even talk about Eric the Awful.
Eric the Awful.
Oh my God, dude! I mean, me and my dad and my oldest son used to watch those videos, and my dad, God love him, he would cackle. Melvin C. Davis, the Right Reverend Melvin C. would cackle over Ray Stevens videos. I love that. That was good memories right there.
Yep. One of my favorite lines from any Ray Stevens song was, well, Harv hit the aisle dancing and screaming. Some thought he had religion, others thought he had a demon. And Harv thought he had a weed eater loose in his Fruit of the Looms.
Fruit loose in his Fruit of the Looms. That's Mississippi Squirrel Revival right there. Y'all gotta watch that.
Oh my God.
If you have not watched Ray Stevens videos, you are remiss.
You are missing out. If you guys like the line where Margolin's talking about, Bigfoot, he said it would be a different story if he had a beard trimmer, some lip gloss, and some peach preserves. That's where I took that from Ray Stevens.
That's like a live chicken, a weed
eater, and some peach preserves.
There you go. I knew when you said that, DA, when I read that line, I immediately reverted to Ray Stevens.
That is exactly, that was an homage to Ray Stevens.
There you go. Then I was right on line with, I was like, holy shit, that's Ray Stevens right there. So I don't care who you are. That's funny. If I don't light your fire, your wood's wet. Come on.
Like Harry the Hairy Ape. Well, the DJ played Harry's record. Shut up, it was a hit, and he became a star.
Good Lord.
Oh, my God. I could laugh about Ray Stevens for hours.
Lord, I got the vapors.
I got the
vapors up in here. Oh, my Lord.
Oh.
You like Sister Bertha better than you.
How'd you get that? How'd you get the hard help on that high dive? Budding.
I heard
it's Cletus.
Hotel swimming pool at 3 a.m. with them cocktail waitresses and nothing but your Fruit of the Looms.
Budding. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right, y'all need to also watch Lum and Abner. Yeah. And a Jot 'em Down store. That was some good radio back in the day.
Jerry Clower. Got to watch Jerry Clower.
Shoot
this thing. Have mercy.
Jerry Clower may not have aged well for modern times. Just warning you.
That might be an NSFW.
Yeah, that's straight out of the 60s and 70s. That might offend some folks.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you can watch Blazing Saddles, you can listen to Jerry Clower.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just saying.
I mean,
Sitting Up with the Dead, David Bodge says, "Oh my God in heaven,
that one's great.
dude."
Oh,
Okay, like I said, if you can watch Blazing Saddles, you can listen to Jerry Clower. You'll be okay.
The New
Bless you.
Bull.
shoot
The
up
New
in
Bull.
here. One of us has got to get some relief.
The New Bull, Coon Hunting Story. Marcel bought the bar.
Dude, all of them.
Sitting Up with the Dead.
Yes.
Putting the wig on the dog. And God said
Oh
when
my
he saw
God.
it, he thought it was a lion too.
Man, y'all need to listen to all of Jerry Clower. That's all I gotta say.
Arnell, WL, Raynell, Linnell.
You,
Ardell,
Dale, and
Eugene, and Clovis.
Clovis.
Claude and Eugene.
And Clovis. Can't forget
And
Clovis.
Yeah.
Marcel Ledbetter Moving Company.
Oh my God. Hey, Nighthawk is like, y'all guys are way too soft for not drinking.
Yeah, I haven't had a drop. Just water and soda.
I have not. So yes. Bless your heart.
Knock him out, John.
Knock him out, John.
Won't be long now. Oh, shoot this thing.
Lord have mercy.
It
All
was
right.
late. We called him a souped up wildcat in Amite County.
I can see why.
He drawed back and he punched the coon, but it wasn't a coon.
We just
It
high
was
on
a
life.
lynx.
All right. Well,
Yeah. Well, another thing I want to mention before we call it a night is the 22 a Day Foundation. I know this is kind of a serious topic coming from what we just left, but we lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. You reach out to those veteran first responder friends of yours. Because you never know when your text, the ubiquitous "Hey fucker, you awake?" 2 o'clock text that sometimes these guys randomly get from me. You never know when that text is what pulls somebody back off the edge. Because everybody, when they face those demons, it's good to have someone to face them with you. And sometimes you don't have to say a word. Sometimes you just need to be there. So let's get 22 a day down to 0 a day. Check out the Till Valhalla project, as they are big supporters of veterans charities. Anything that they make goes back into buying service dogs and prosthetic limbs, and providing for therapy for veterans, because we're not doing enough for them. So definitely check those folks out, and again, check out, reach out to your first responder friends and your veteran friends and your active duty friends, because again, they see things that the human mind cannot comprehend sometimes, and all of us need a little help fighting the demons once in a while. Sometimes it takes more than just you to keep the darkness at bay, and you'd be surprised sometimes. Keeping the darkness at bay is as simple as sharing a cup of coffee with somebody.
amen.
Or just listening. I've told more than one friend of mine, I don't care what you talk about, just listen. I'm just here to listen. Whatever you want to talk about. And it's too much, especially with our first responders and veterans and military personnel. There's too much of a stigma placed on their mental health, and that needs to go away, because we all need help from time to time, and we shouldn't feel like we're less because of it. And that was a tough pill for me to swallow too. After I got hurt, I had to see a therapist, and if it weren't for my buddy John, who was a licensed therapist, I don't know what I would have done. But John, I'd text him, "Hey, let's go get coffee," and he knew that's what I meant. I needed to talk, and fortunately, I had that avenue where he was a friend of mine, and I could just reach out, and he got me through some tough stuff. And if you can be that person for somebody, good for you. Good on you. Everybody needs somebody, needs it once in a while. We all do. All of us.
Amen.
Everyone, the three of us here, Steve, all of us here had needed a shoulder at one point in our lives. And just be there for those you care about, because I would a whole lot rather hear your story than read your obituary.
Amen.
And again, 22 a day is 22 too many. So we're going to wind the show down here. Lately, we've been ending the show with a toast, and it's something I'm pretty proud of. I'm glad I decided to start doing that, and that Doc and Robbie and Steve were all on board with it, because I think it's really fitting. It's an apropos salute to those we've lost along the way. The song's called "The Parting Glass." It's an old Irish drinking song that's played at the close of day in Irish pubs all over the world. And it's not just talking about raising a glass at the end of the day and saying goodnight to everybody. When you read the lyrics and you listen to the song, you realize it's talking about something a bit more. It's talking about lifting a glass and saying goodbye to those who aren't there to lift those anymore. So if you guys will join me in lifting a glass, it doesn't matter. What you got, coffee, water, something stronger, whatever you want, whatever glass you want to lift. I would ask you all to join us in this closing toast. And again, the song is called "The Parting Glass." The quote says, "But since it fell into my lot that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone, and thank you for being here. Slàinte
Slàinte.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.